You're watching The Daily Climate Show on Sky News. On today's programme, 65 people have died in Algeria as soaring temperatures mean wildfires continue across North Africa, Europe and California. More extreme heat heading for Spain and Portugal, with record temperatures in Tunisia and a new heat wave for the northwest of the United States and Canada. And why our fast-changing climate is putting 10,000 cherished archaeological and heritage sites at risk. Hello and welcome to the UK's only daily climate news show. More than 60 people have died in Algeria in wildfires fanned by extreme temperatures across the region. Fires are being fought in Greece, Italy and the United States, all while more severe heat is expected across southern Europe, including temperatures of more than 45 degrees Celsius in Spain and Portugal. It's the latest evidence of extreme conditions that scientists say are exacerbated by the effects of climate change. So let's start in Algeria, where the number of those killed by wildfires has started to rise sharply today as extreme heat sweeps North Africa. So these are the latest pictures from the country, where 65 people are now known to have died in fires. 25 soldiers were killed fighting the fires in forested parts in the north of the country, including in the worst hit area, Tizi Ouzou. And here you can see the impact of those fires in Algeria. Now, this is from the EU's Copernicus programme, which shows particulate matter from the fires in Algeria, but also in southern Italy and Greece as well. And this is from midday today. Meanwhile, this from NASA shows plumes of smoke from the fires, again from Algeria, and other fires across southern Europe and the Mediterranean. And you can see the fires indicated by orange dots and the smoke drifting away from them. In California, the vast Dixie Fire, now the second largest in the state's history, is just 21% contained, having consumed some 500,000 acres of land. Tinder-dry forests and high temperatures have sustained this fire since mid-July. Sky's Mark Stone spoke to one of those working to contain it.
People saying that the forests are not being managed in the way perhaps they used to be, the Native Americans used to manage them, and that is helping, combined with climate change, that is helping to create this disaster.
Well, the drought conditions have definitely been a challenge to manage through. The pace and scale of reforestation activities, fuel breaks and fuel and vegetation treatments has increased across the Forest Service. Here on the Plumas, specifically on the Dixie Fire, all of the land management agencies are struggling because of the climate change and the longer burning season and the longer fire seasons.
Well, fires have been burning in Greece for 9 days now, prompting the Prime Minister to apologise for a lack of preparedness. Foreign firefighters have now started work, and migrating storks are being badly affected by the smoke. Well, Sky's Sally Lockwood is in Arcadia in Greece. So, Sally, the government there has acknowledged that more action could have been taken ahead of these fires. So how much is being done to adapt and to mitigate?
Yeah, certainly the Greek Prime Minister addressing the nation this week did grasp the nettle and talked about the issue of climate change, which of course is affecting so much of the country in terms of these wildfires which have been burning for more than a week now. He challenged anyone who didn't believe in climate change to come and have a look at what's happening in Greece and acknowledge that the steps taken so far simply do not go far enough. So what is Greece doing here? Well, to put it into context, Greece is the 11th highest emitter of carbon in the EU, Germany the highest. And it did, of course, sign up to the Paris Climate Change Agreement. It's pledged to reduce its carbon emissions by more than half by 2030 and to reach net zero by 2050. But as we know, many of those promises made in Paris simply don't go far enough. But one thing that's quite interesting that Greece has done in July of this year, they appointed a chief heat officer for Athens, the first in Europe, only the second in the world after Miami-Dade County in America. And this heat officer, really their job is to look at the city, look at how heat and extreme weather impacts how people live, and to try and mitigate against the impact. Rainfall in the summer in Greece is down by around 20 to 30%. What we need is the international community, of course, to come together and to find long-term solutions for climate change. But one glimmer of hope for this community in the next 24 hours is that there is some long-awaited rain, with a storm due tomorrow.
Sally, thank you. Well, if those devastating wildfires are the consequence, one cause is extreme heat. It means fires are more extensive and severe and harder to counter. And we know from the stark warnings in the IPCC report that more extreme heat is already happening because of climate change. Now, Spain and Portugal are bracing for temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius, and records could be broken across southern Europe. The Portuguese Prime Minister has warned that's likely to mean wildfires in his country too. Well, North Africa and southern Europe are facing temperatures much higher than expected at this time of year. The Tunisian capital, Tunis, hit a new record temperature of 48.9 degrees, breaking the previous high of 47.4 degrees Celsius from 1943. Now, you'd normally expect low to mid-30s at this time of year, but it hit 47 degrees in Lentini in Sicily, and that matches Italy's all-time temperature record. Europe's all-time record is 48 degrees in Athens in 1977. Even that could be challenged, as the heat will gradually move west through the Mediterranean over the next few days, peaking in Spain and Portugal over the weekend, where temperatures of 47 degrees are expected. And Spain's current all-time record is 47.3 degrees from just 4 years ago. And you may remember the heat dome that brought extreme temperatures to the Pacific Northwest of the United States and parts of Canada. Well, similar conditions are likely to return over the next few days. Now, we might not get the same highs, but temperatures will be well above August averages, possibly by as much as 10 degrees Celsius. So, how extreme are those temperatures? And just how much are they being driven by climate change? Well, I can ask that to Professor Peter Stott, who's a Science Fellow in Climate Attribution at the Met Office. So, welcome to you. So, can we say at this stage that these very high temperatures are the result of climate change?
Well, we can say that climate change is playing an important role in these very high temperatures. It's the weather that brings the particular meteorological conditions, but it's climate change that's effectively adding fuel to the fire of that weather. We looked actually at the Canadian extreme temperatures that we saw back in June, when Canadian temperatures reached as high as 49.6 degrees Celsius, which is a massive 4.6 degrees Celsius warmer than the previous record, and found that climate change had made the chances of having such extreme temperatures very, very much more likely, about 4,000 times more likely, we calculated. So it's very clear that climate change is making these extreme conditions even more extreme and giving us these extraordinary record-breaking temperatures.
Well, yes, you used the word extraordinary. I was going to use that word for the series of events that we've seen, from heat waves to floods over the last few weeks and months. What have you made of it?
I've made of it that what we climate scientists have been predicting for several decades now is really with us. We've very accurately predicted the rise in global average temperature, which are now about 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer than pre-industrial levels. And for many years now, climate scientists have been predicting that this would bring in its train extreme weather, more heat waves, more floods, and much more damaging heat waves and floods and storms. And what we're now seeing, and we're not seeing it just this summer, but we've seen it in recent summers in the Northern Hemisphere, we're seeing a succession of these very damaging extremes. And it's very, very clear that climate change is now with us. And that is exactly what the recent IPCC report has concluded.
In today's other climate news, heavy rainfall has triggered floods and landslides on the northern coast of Turkey as the south of the country continues to battle wildfires. The extreme weather tore down a bridge, injuring at least 13 people, and has left 12 villages without power. The Disaster and Emergency Management Presidency has warned that strong rains in the area will continue. Oceans campaigner Lewis Pugh will attempt the coldest swim on Earth to highlight the effects of climate change. His swim will stretch across the 10-kilometre mouth of the Ilulissat ice fjord, which is fed by the world's fastest-moving glacier. Scientists predict global sea levels will rise by 7 metres if Greenland's ice sheets melt entirely. The red arrows could go green as part of efforts to reach net zero by 2040. The red arrows' smoke trails currently are comprised of 75% diesel and 25% dye, and the planes used over 600,000 litres of diesel in 2018. Defence Equipment and Support, a trading arm of the Ministry of Defence, is searching for environmentally friendly smoke dye and fuel alternatives. And Royal Marine Commandos attempting a record row to raise awareness of ocean plastic have arrived at Tower Bridge in London. The North Atlantic row started in Brooklyn Bridge, and after 64 days, the rowers reached British waters. Now, the wildfires, spurred on by those extreme temperatures in Greece, threaten some of the most famous sites in all of human history, Olympia and Marathon. But closer to home, we know that climate change is also putting some of the UK's most cherished archaeological sites in danger. Experts have told the Daily Climate Show that more than 10,000 heritage sites here could disappear. Well, air pollution can erode the limestone and sandstone blocks that make up many ancient structures, like the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. And the rose granite used in lots of Egyptian artefacts is starting to crack as fluctuating temperatures cause the rock to expand and then to contract. And these temperature changes are damaging cave paintings in Indonesia too. As temperatures rise and fall, salt crystals in the cave walls expand and contract, causing the paint to flake. And the iconic Maui statues placed along the edges of Rapa Nui, otherwise known as Easter Island, are critically at risk, and that's because of coastal erosion. Future digs are also in danger. Scientists estimate there are at least 180,000 archaeological sites in the Arctic, and very few of them have been excavated. But melting ice sheets and tundra fire means many of these sites will be lost. Well, let's focus then on the impact in the UK now and speak to Dr. Alison Sheridan, formerly Principal Curator of Early Prehistory at National Museum Scotland and Archaeologist of the Year 2020. So welcome to you. So tell us, what could the impact be on our archaeological sites and historic areas of interest in the UK?
The greatest threat is from coastal erosion, where increasing storminess is going to scour the coastline. We can see it already, and you also have the problem of rising sea level at the same time. So we find that there are iconic sites such as Skara Brae, which are now threatened because the sea is much, much closer than it ever was when the site was first constructed about 5,000 years ago.
So what can be done about it?
All over Britain, the archaeological authorities, the government authorities are monitoring sites and monitoring erosion. So in Scotland, there is the SCAPE Trust, which is the Scottish Coastal Archaeology and the Problem of Erosion Trust, which has set out to survey Scotland's coastline. There's about 19,000 kilometres of coastline to survey. And so they've only been able to do a small amount of it, but they've identified there's something like 12,000 sites on the coast. And of those, 1,000 are threatened and 145 are critically threatened just now. The Scottish Government is funding, part funding a PhD by Eleanor Graham of the University of Aberdeen, who is doing drone surveys to assess the amount of coast that has been scoured, and who can then predict how much more of the coast is going to go. And you can repeat this exercise around Britain. So we've seen on the East Coast, for example, you get a lot of slumping of and you get whole cliffs that are crumbling away on the south coast of England.
Dr. Alison Sheridan, thanks very much indeed. Well, that's everything from us for today. Next time, how much carbon dioxide is being generated by wildfires? You can find out more here on the Daily Climate Show tomorrow. See you then.